Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about something I didn't expect to feel while living in France. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. I am Patricia Brooks. I'm an American living in the south of France and have been for 8 years. And I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives living and thriving in a foreign country. I do that by helping them to build the kind of mindset that will allow them to, first of all, actually make the leap to their new country, but second of all, create the mindset that will allow them to live there long term. And on this channel, I talk about my life in France, about moving abroad, and how to live the kind of life you know that you were meant to. And today I'm going to be talking about a cultural difference that I have not spoken about on my other cultural difference videos. And to do this, I am going to take you on a trip to Spain. And so that you're going to see footage of my trip this Sunday to Spain. And that might sound like a big deal, but I'm about 15 minutes from the Spanish border. So it's not as big a deal as you might think. It's still fun, but it's very reasonable for me to do anytime that I'd like. All right, so let's dig into the cultural difference that I am talking about here, or how I feel when I'm living here in France. And that is, sometimes I feel a little bit constricted. And you might say, what? What do you mean by that? I'm going to give you a few examples. When I first started driving here in France, it was not comfortable to me because I just didn't know the roads. It just felt foreign to me. But as I got more accustomed to that and to the roundabouts, I did become more comfortable driving, but I still, when I get behind the wheel, feel a little bit closed off, a little bit constricted. And that's because the roads here are much more narrow than the roads are where I came from. I was visiting the US in 2020 and I was driving around a neighborhood and I was looking at the size of the road, and it was 2.5 or 3 times as wide as the streets here. And I was like, wow, no wonder I can feel a little bit constrained when I'm driving in France. But it's beyond just the width of the roads here. I often see things that are in the road that seem to be impediments to making you feel so free as you drive. They have barriers that cordon off the right side from the left side of the road when you're at a stop sign sometimes. And there are these plastic pylons that if you're making a left turn, you need to make sure you have cleared that, and so you don't run them over. Sometimes there are cement barriers in the road. I've run over one of those and scraped the bottom of my car and thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to break down. And fortunately, I didn't. And not too far from my house, they just installed these metal barriers that come up and go down if you have the code or a badge to badge in to that section of the neighborhood. And it's a main road, so it's not closed off except for market day. However, there are 4 of these metal pylons. And on market day, as I said, all 4 of them are up, and so you can't drive down that road. But on non-market days, which is 6 of the other days of the week, they have the 2 outer ones raised so that it narrows the entrance into this part of town. And this is a 2-way street, and so it makes it very difficult to maneuver in and out, especially if there's another car coming. And I've even seen that these brand new barriers have been scraped up because people have actually rubbed up against them with their cars. So it's not only me who must feel constricted, but because I come from a place where the roads are more wide open, they don't seem to put these sorts of barriers or impediments in the road, I do feel constrained. So that's one way that I feel constrained while living here in France. Another way is that the personal space. I've already spoken about this in numerous other videos. Just suffice it to say that the personal space boundary is much less here in France. if it exists at all. If you're walking down the street and somebody's coming toward you, you might get bumped. Standing in line at the grocery store, somebody might be right up against your back. And that to me feels constricting. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about that today. And finally, I feel constricted here living in France because of store hours. Store hours are much shorter here in France. And so if I want to go and buy something from the grocery store, if I want to go to a clothing store, those hours are much shorter than hours in the US. And I've spoken about that. I have adjusted to that. Sometimes even during the middle of the day, stores will close. That's not a problem. I have adjusted to that. What I'm speaking about here is the feeling of, oh, sometimes I would like to go to the store at, maybe 8:30 p.m., but it's closed. It's not that I haven't planned for it, right? It's not that I need something at 8:30 because I've already adjusted my habits to fit into the regular window of the store operating hours. But that feels like a constraint to me. One of the things that I used to do when I was living in the United States, I would go to the mall on Sundays. And it wasn't every Sunday, but maybe one Sunday a month, one Sunday every 6 weeks, I would get in my car, drive the 25 minutes to the short pump town center, an open air mall, and I would go walk around. Sometimes I'd window shop. Sometimes I needed something and I would clothes shop. And taking that drive down the highway to the mall, walking around the mall on a Sunday afternoon, it was freeing to me. It allowed me to get out. It allowed me to stop thinking about, oh my gosh, on Monday, I'm going to have to go into work. I don't really want to do that. No, it was something that really kind of cleared my head. And that felt really good. And here in France, the stores are closed on Sundays. Some supermarkets are open on Sunday mornings. But if I want to buy some clothes, if I want to go to the pharmacy, I'm out of luck. And so I can't do this thing that felt so freeing to me when I was in the US. Except I can. And you're seeing video footage of exactly what I need to do or can do in order to feel this freedom. This trip this Sunday was really to kind of get a sense of, could I feel the same way I felt in the US when I would go to a mall on a Sunday? And I'm going to share the answer with you in a minute. But I want to speak to you about, well, why are the stores open on Sunday in Spain and not here in the south of France? Well, I think there are a couple of reasons. I don't think that stores are open all across Spain on Sundays. In this town called Junquera, I believe is how you pronounce it, there's a mall there. There are stores that sell tobacco and alcohol and perfume. And it is a tourist attraction because here in France, the taxes are much higher. So people come from France, go to Spain, do some shopping, save some money, and make an outing of it on a Sunday. And so because of that, this particular mall is open from 9 a.m. on Sundays to 9 p.m. on Sundays, which is even more hours than the malls in the U.S. are. Because the malls in the U.S. are open from noon to about 5 or maybe 6 p.m. on Sunday, right? So, and this is something that I've known, but I haven't really taken advantage of. And that's because I think I went one time and I really didn't see stores that really spoke to me, so I didn't go. But I was reminded of this little trick by a friend who last Sunday I ran into, and she was on her way to Spain to go clothes shopping. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's something I could do. Maybe I could do that. And so that's what I did this past Sunday. I put in my GPS, the name of the town, but not the name of the mall. And so it took me to the little village. And so you will see or have seen me walking down those streets. And it was so charming. It was this little surprise because you have to understand there's a highway that goes through this town. And where the mall is. And then there's the mall on one side. And there's a lot of commerce, a lot of stores, as I said, tobacco, alcohol, the big mall, lots of restaurants. So it's really commercial, and it doesn't look like there would be a quaint little town just beyond the commercial limits. But there was. And so that was a highlight of my Sunday. So anyway, I made it to the mall. And one of the things that I noticed was that the roads toward the malls were wide open. As you can see, they're wide. There was a sense of freedom I felt there. I got to the mall and I found a parking garage right next to the mall. And I turned in there and it was clean. It felt spacious, unlike many of the parking garages I have been in France, where the spots are really, really small, where I just felt really constricted, which is the subject of this video. I felt a little bit more freedom in there. And I'll show you some footage of that as well. So the parking garage was a hit. Getting to the mall was a hit too, because the roads were wide open and I felt good. And going into the mall, it was nice. It was a pleasant experience. There were lots of people, which kind of made me happy, because my last experiences at malls in the US were a little depressing because many of the stores were not open. They had closed. They had gone out of business. And there weren't a ton of people walking around the mall. But this Sunday at this mall, there were lots of people. It was vibrant. And I didn't see, I think, one store or storefront that was not open for business. So that felt good. Now, I did go into a couple of the stores to see if I could find clothes that might suit me. And I didn't. I didn't know the brands, the store brands that were there. And one of the things that I find challenging now in looking for clothes is that as I get older, I can't tolerate clothes that are rough against my skin. If it's rough, it could be a really good deal, but if it's rough, I'm not going to put it against my skin. And now, with the fast fashion seeming to take over so much, it's really getting more challenging to find quality clothes that aren't a fortune. But I did go into a couple of stores, and while some of the styles were stylish and maybe not even my style, but they did have some cute things, they just weren't my thing. So I did not get any clothes when I went to this mall, but it was a nice outing. I walked through the food court, which was mobbed, and it was a little bit afternoon, which surprised me because in Spain, eating hours seem to tend to be a little bit later. However, I know there are a lot of tourists, a lot of French people who come over who, lunch is at noon. So that could take up for it. In addition, it was Sunday, so maybe people were having Sunday brunch as opposed to eating normal hours. So is that. So I went to the mall. How did it feel to me? Did I feel like I had this sense of freedom that I had when I would go to the mall on Sundays in the US? Yes and no. Yes, because it was a great outing. It was a good experience. The mall was a good experience overall, even though I didn't buy anything. From that point of view, absolutely. It felt good. It feels like something I need to do more regularly. But the no part is because I have not found stores or did not find stores that I would buy clothes out of, right? I am in need of some clothes for springtime, and I might have to take a trip to maybe Barcelona or another bigger city to find clothes that are going to suit me. Now, that's not to say that there are not stores here in France that I wouldn't be happy to shop at. I'm just saying that where I find myself, in my neighborhood, in my village, even in Perpignan, I haven't found stores that have my style of clothes, the quality that I'm looking for. I have, however, in some other cities in France, found stores that I would love to shop in. When I went to Pau a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I was like, oh, I could come here and do some damage. I I bought a cute pair of boots that I still wear. And if I had had more time there, I would have done more shopping. Another place in France that I would enjoy going to shop is Avignon. I was there in October with my group, the Carefree Expat Incubator Summit, and they had some nice shops there. So I'm not saying that France doesn't have stores. I'm just saying where I am, I haven't found the stores that suit me. So yes, I felt a sense of freedom, but not as free as I have felt in the past in the US, going to malls in the US, because I had my go-to stores. I knew my brands. Now that was changing a little bit toward the end too, however, because as I was talking about fast fashion, that was starting to creep in while I was there too. And I noticed that a degradation in the quality of some of the store brands that I had enjoyed before. So that is how I sometimes feel constricted here in France, because the streets are more narrow and they put barriers up that seem to get in the way because of personal space and because store hours are shorter, and I can't go to the mall here in France unless I cross the border into Spain and I can get my fix of a little bit of Sunday freedom. All right. Now, have you been to France? Have you been to Europe? Have you driven here? Have you felt a difference around the amount of personal space that you get while here in France or in Europe? Let me know in the comments if that makes you feel a little bit constrained or constricted while you are here. Now, I have one announcement. I have recently started a Substack newsletter. Now, Substack is where I post articles about different parts of my life. Here on YouTube, I talk about moving abroad and living in France. On my Substack, I write about my writing journey. I am in the process of finding a literary agent and working to get traditionally published. And so I'm going to be writing articles about that. I'm writing articles about reinvention and finding joy and stepping into your creativity, all of those good things, personal growth. And so if those sorts of things interest you, be sure to check out my Substack and subscribe. You can go to patriciacbrooksauthor.substack.com and check it out there. Now, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you have already subscribed to my channel, thank you. If you have not yet, please be sure to do so. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.